Hey, good morning, Joe.
Good morning. Good morning. So we have a great opportunity to do a workshop with you today. We may make some few tweaks with the agenda based on a little bit of a change with people's availability, but I would like to go through and just briefly touch the agenda. I know we have about 200 people registered for the webinar, and right now I see about 89 people that are actually on the line. So I'd like to just take a few minutes, just go through the agenda. We've got Kat Wessner from FHWA. We'll be going over FHWA, her progressive design build. Jeff Newmar with San Francisco Airport, unfortunately, will not be joining us. So Kat has graciously accepted to do Jeff's presentation. We have Ken Ad. Thank you, Kat, by the way.
No, she hasn't.
All right, then we have Ken Atkins and Ed Minchin, Dr. Minchin, doing construction manager, general contractor, 45 minutes of that. They're going to team up presentation. Looking forward to that. Then we'll have our break. Now, we may change a little bit with the afternoon session. Have our progressive design build, Michael Romero and Jeff Folden. Michael from Utah DOT and then Jeff Folden from Maryland DOT. And then following on the lines with construction manager, general contractor, we got Matt Zundel from Utah, Matthew Pichero with Colorado DOT, and then Jesse Webb from Idaho talking about the Manning Crevice Bridge. So we may have the I think it was Matthew. Who had the time conflict earlier? Panelists?
That was Matt Zundel with Utah DOT.
Okay, so Matt, yeah, we'll just work through doing your presentation, change it up. So with that, that's pretty the high level overview. We've got more than 100 people signed on enough. So let's go ahead and officially get it started.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thank you. Thank you for all the presenters. Excited, as Joe mentioned, that there's interest within the state of Florida, within Florida DOT, to look at this delivery technique, progressive design build, and construction manager, general contractor. So that's the purpose of it. This is just to learn from people who are the subject matter experts and from state DOTs who have been doing this delivery technique. The purpose of the webinar today is just to educate ourselves on what are these two delivery techniques. And there's a lot of thoughts, concerns, pros and cons of these techniques. So our goal here is just to learn, and then we'll talk about the next steps going forward. So please, if you are, I'm assuming if you're participating, keep it muted. Joe and I apologize at the beginning of any technical issues, but I think we can pull it off. And originally we were thinking about doing this in person and at the Turnpike facility, but I think we're still a week or two out before we can get out and do sort of conferences and those kind of things. So with that, hopefully everybody is safe and healthy and doing your part, trying to beat out the pandemic. But with that, I'll turn it back to you. And just for purpose of folks, I know a lot of folks who are from a DOT and consultant standpoint joining in. You may have heard of Joe, but Joe is the operations program manager at the Florida DOT. He took the role from Amy Tootle, who's now the program manager for MCORS, and before that, a guy named Greg Shees, former Federal Highway and DOT person, who was sort of the alternative contracting person. So Joe took their spot. Joe's been in DOT for how many years? 20 years. He's been 12 years as state transportation safety engineer, 5 years in construction, 8 years in planning, and then he's also served 27 years with the U.S. Navy Civil Engineering Corps. So Joe has a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Florida State University, and he's a registered PE in Florida. So with that, Joe, and we'll dive into our first presentation. So.
Awesome. Yeah, and you know, this originally we had this webinar, or excuse me, this training like back in April, right? And here we are June 1st. So welcome to June. The other thing I wanted to kind of mention to Annette, kind of follow up with what Annette is saying, is just I think we look at this as just kind of a starting point. We anticipate some follow-ups, right? This isn't just a one and done kind of thing, right? So just be open-minded. You know, part of this process is knowing the right questions to ask. We got a lot of smart people on the line today. And speaking of questions, we do have the audio limited to just the panelists speaking, okay? And I would encourage you panelists, if we might, when we're gonna receive questions, and questions are gonna be given through the chat option within the GoToWebinar. So please, we encourage you, if you do have questions, you know, you use the chat pod, the chat area to do that.
Yeah, and the other, Joe, appreciate you bringing that up. So for folks who are, hopefully everybody's on a GoToWebinar, so you can submit your questions through the chat feature. But if you're just dialing in audio and you have a dying question that you want to ask, you can email it to me, aprasad@ftba.com. Or if you have my cell number, you can text it to me, or you can send it to Joe Santos. That is joseph.santos@dot.state.fl.us. So first name, last name, and the rate, same domain sort of stuff. So either way, if you got a question, get it to us. We'll get it asked, and so you can listen to it. So, all right, back to you.
Yeah, very good. So thank you. So and then I ask for those that are organizers, if you can help track those questions. And then even, I think even the panelists can see questions on the chat session. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So Kat from FHWA, I'm gonna turn your presentation on.